Hi, family. Welcome back to this week's episode of The Gold Corner. The Gold Corner is a broken family, like I tell everyone, but we're broken together. This is a channel that I created. My name is Joel Ojeda. I'm also known as the Bearded Rev. And I created this channel in memory of my 2-year-old daughter, Mia, who passed away from neuroblastoma in 2018. And I created this as a platform where us as parents can come and speak about our children, those kids that have already been called home, the ones currently fighting, and the ones that have beat it. So this is who we are. We are the Gold Corner. Let's do this.
And now it's time for the main event. This is the moment you have all been waiting for. In memory of Mia Ojeda. Dedicated to all the brave little warriors that have fought and the ones that are currently fighting childhood cancer. For the thousands watching around the world, fighting out of the Gold Corner, it's time!
This week, we have another amazing guest. I've had the opportunity to speak to our guest and actually follow her and her foundation. She is doing amazing things, and she's going to be speaking to us a little bit more about the foundation that she has and everything that she's doing for childhood cancer awareness. And she has, again, an amazing foundation that I've had been following for a while now, and everything that she's doing is just great. So we have today joining us, we have Lindsey, and Lindsey is joining us from Georgia, but she's only been there a month. She's going to give us a little bit more of a in depth about her story and about her Warrior Ayden, who was called home, and the organization that she has in Ayden's honor to help other families. So, Lindsey, I just wanted to say welcome, and I also wanted to say thank you so much for agreeing and accepting to be a guest here in the Gold Corner. You and I have been talking a lot, and our stories are obviously similar in some ways, and we're broken, but we can be there for each other, and that's exactly what I wanted to do with this channel, is to be able to connect the families that have gone through something like this, and for us to be one whole family. So, Lindsey, welcome to the Gold Corner. We can't wait to hear your warrior story, and the floor is yours.
I'm super excited to be here with Mia's dad and, be able to share my feelings about the crazy journey of loss. And it's very unique for me to be able to even talk to a dad about, losing a child. And so many of us moms wish we could have talked to even our children's dads about what was going on and have that support. So to be able to be part of this and to see you continue Mia's legacy is absolutely an honor, and I'm so excited to be here. So I want to share my little angel, Ayden. So you guys bear with me a little bit. Ayden had passed 3 years ago. And the 3 years since the loss of Ayden has been a pretty crazy journey for me. A lot of beautiful parts, a lot of crazy parts. But, as a mom, I would do it all over again just for 2 more seconds to be able to share those mommy kisses with Ayden. And for those of you guys who don't know Ayden, he was my only child. He was diagnosed with cancer, rhabdomyosarcoma, at 13 months old. And at 13 months old, we went into full-time childhood cancer treatment. And if anybody hasn't been part of the childhood cancer world, there's absolutely nothing that can prepare you for what is to come when you hear those words. And with Ayden, he was a healthy kid. He was happy. He was, flourishing. He was smart. I did his shots late. So that was something I thought I was doing to make sure that he would be okay. And I didn't really start too many shots until 9 months. And at 9 months, I gave Ayden 3 shots, his pediatrician. And at his birthday party, when he turned 1 year old, I noticed him really tired. And at the time I thought it was the sun. We were living in Las Vegas. So I thought, the sun's wearing him out. And I threw the biggest party you could ever think of. And I'm like, he's probably, mommy, this is too much. I'm little. But, I went all out. And after that party, I kind of noticed that Ayden was very lackadaisical. He was tired a lot. And I came home from work one day and he was with my mom playing on the floor and he was struggling to breathe. And, he wasn't able to crawl yet or walk yet. So I was like, well, why is he breathing so hard? So that's what was my first sign. And at the time we thought it was just, he needed breathing treatments. So we gave him breathing treatments and that didn't seem to help him. So I decided to take him to the pediatrician that day. And I got him to the pediatrician and we did the normal things. And then the pediatrician said that they wanted to do an x-ray. So I went back to work thinking it was a normal, doctor's appointment. And they did the x-rays and he stayed with his Grammy. By the time I got off my second shift I was driving school buses at the time, they told me I needed to get straight to the hospital. And I'm like, the hospital? Why would I be at the hospital? And they told me to call my mom, have her meet him at the emergency room. So we did. And she pulled up with Ayden and he looked so weak and I just couldn't get it. Like he was just fine. I don't understand. So I grab him out of his car seat and we run into the emergency room. And as I'm running into the emergency room, my son's eyes are rolling in the back of his head. And I'm telling the lady, something's wrong. My son's not breathing. And I remember her trying to talk to me. And I remember just pushing her out of the way and busting through these doors and searching for the first person I saw with a white jacket. And I gave him my son. And this is where the first problem started. Is when I gave him my son, this was a learning hospital at St. Rose Children's Hospital in Las Vegas. He told me Ayden had pneumonia and he needed to immediately go into emergency surgery to puncture the lung to reinflate the lung from the pneumonia because it had collapsed. And I was first time mom, this is a doctor. So I'd say, do it, take him, anything to make him better. So they take my son back and they give him this chest tube through his chest. They reinflate the lung and then they bring me my son back on a stretcher. And here's this 13-month-old baby with now tubes coming out of the side of his chest. And he's laying with the pamper and completely passed out. And I just remember staring at him that day, like, what happened? And that day turned into 2 weeks of thinking Ayden had pneumonia and 3 chest tubes. Thereafter, the 3 chest tubes, they found out that this wasn't pneumonia at all, that he had cancer, and they had already punctured where the cancer was. But of course, they never told me this, but they had already punctured his pleural lining where his cancer was, and that diagnosis spread the cancer through my son's whole body. But at that time, they told me that he had cancer. But it was even crazier because when they told me he had cancer, I'm sitting in this room wondering why all these doctors are there. And I asked them to tell me on the phone because I was getting something at a store. And they told me they couldn't tell me on the phone. I needed to come there. So when I got back to the hospital, I'm racing back to this hospital and there's doctors all over the room and they sit me down and they're telling me, this is so-and-so and Dr. So-and-so from epidemiology and and oncology. And I'm just still looking at them. And I think they clearly knew I had no idea what half the words they were saying meant to me. So my mom stops them and says, do you know what oncology means? And I said, no. And that's when the doctor looked at me and told me it's cancer. And I remember my sister was there with me and she is 10 years younger than me. So I'm 37 or 10 years older. So she's 47. And she had just beat cancer. And she said, yeah, you know, oncology is cancer. And I looked at my sister and I said, just because you got sick, don't be trying to make my kids sick. And I always felt so bad because I'm like, I had no idea. And she, you know, my sister, by the grace of God, is living and she beat it. But unfortunately for Ayden, he only got the 3 years. So at diagnosis, when they told me he had cancer, my first thing was call St. Jude and call him right now, because I saw the commercials. I saw, you know, all these things that they tell us, and I want to spend time with my son. I want to be able to not worry about work and bills. I want to fight with him. So they call St. Jude, and St. Jude doesn't even talk to me, doesn't tell me anything. They talk to the doctor, and the doctor comes back and tells me, hey, St. Jude said you're fine here. They'll send a plan and you guys can be treated at your local hospital. But I often wonder, did St. Jude already know that you guys spread this cancer? And is that why St. Jude never wanted to help Ayden? But of course, they'll never tell us these things. So me and Ayden decided the best way to fight would be to go to CHLA. And this was one of the best hospitals in the West Coast for childhood cancer. You know, my brother was a firefighter. He pulled some strings and we got my son into CHLA. And I remember his first night of chemo, like it was yesterday. And, you know, my family was all fighting. I'm black and white. So my black family was fighting with my white family, and the white family was more important than the black family. And all I cared about was my son. So now I just found out my kid is sick. I just lost my job. I just had to move out of my place and overnight with the sick kid in the hospital. And we get to CHLA and we stay there for about a week at diagnosis, and he takes his first chemo. And I remember him waking up screaming, and his whole body would like clench back. And he would just scream, and there was nothing I could do. I remember just holding him and shaking, like, what is chemo going to do to him every week? So we got through that first chemo. It was about 3 days in the hospital, and he needed to take it's a shot. I can't believe I forgot what it's called, but it's the shot that they give our kids when they need to make their counts go back up. And this medicine is important because it does help them get their white cell count back up, and they don't struggle as much along the way. But in California, they'll cover that medicine. But in Nevada, there's no state tax. They didn't cover that medicine. So they let those kids get their white cell count up any way they can. And it doesn't matter because they can't afford that medicine. So Ayden at the time had this medicine, and it was the first time I was going to have to give him a shot. So, and me and him were going to stay at the Ronald McDonald House. So the nurse gives me everything, and there's a fight with my family about the Ronald McDonald House and where I'm going after that. So I get upset and I tell my family, everybody just leave and let me be with my son. So me and Ayden are in this Ronald McDonald House in the middle of LA, and we walk in, and the ceilings are leaking. It smells like outside. And I'm looking around this Ronald McDonald House like, my son can't be here. This is disgusting. And it was gross, and it wasn't even close to home. But all Ronald McDonald houses aren't like this. I then later on traveled and saw there's beautiful Ronald McDonald's house, Arizona, and beautiful places, but it's not uniform like that everywhere you go. So me and Ayden get in this Ronald McDonald House, and I got to give him this shot, and he's 13 months old and he doesn't feel good. And I get it in there, and I've never given anybody a shot. So he's squirming, and, finally I'm just like, I can't do it. I can't. So I put him back in his little stroller, and we walk back across to the hospital. I walk back up to the 5th floor at CHLA, and I find my nurse, and I tell her, I need help. I can't do the shot, and I don't have any family here anymore. They all left me, and my son needs a shot. The nurse looked at me and says, I'm going to help you this time. The next time you need to get this done by yourself. So I just was humble. I took her help, and he got his shot that day. But going forward every other time, I knew I was on my own now, and nobody was going to help me with these shots. And I was going to have to convince my son that this was all okay. But by the time Ayden got to 2 years old, my baby could sit there, he pulled his little chest out, and I'd tell him 1, 2, 3, and they clean it. Bam, 2 years old, doesn't cry, laughing the whole time. And, you know, it was because I convinced them it was okay and that this was normal. And that became our life. Me convincing Ayden that this was the last time, or after this, we're going to have a fun day, or, you know, you're going to get better. But I also remember when he went terminal, and they tried to tell me he wasn't terminal, it was just palliative care, where they're going to watch him more closely. And we were all sitting in his doctor's office, and he was sitting there with his little shirt off and his little black shorts. I can remember like yesterday. And he tells me, he was so smart. He would ask me what the doctors would say. And he would, everything to Ayden was so simple. And he says, my cancer come back, mommy? And I told him, yeah. He said, but that's okay, mommy. Just take it back out. And I remember that day because it seemed like such a simple answer to just take it out. But that was something I could never do for him. As much as I could convince him that life was okay, that this was going to pass, that our life was going to go back to normal, and we'll have a whole life full of memories, there was nothing I could do to save my son. So I learned through Ayden's journey that it's the time that we have with him that counts so much. And it's the memories that we build with our kids that keep us alive when they're gone. And with Ayden, he taught me it was okay to be me, that it's okay for me to not comb my hair. I don't have to be pretty. I don't have to be any of that, because the most beautiful part of me was him. And he didn't need me to be anybody but me, because I was perfect for him. And I think, you know, when people see us lose our kids, it's an unimaginable thing. Like, I can't even be angry that people don't get it. I can't be angry that, you know, they say 3 years later and you're still crying. You're a professional crier. You can cry on cue. Well, I'll tell them, I challenge you to even think about your child, and then think about walking down the street with them and somebody just stops and kicks them. Even the thought of somebody doing something to your child could almost bring you to tears. So to be a parent that not just watched your own child die, you fall in love with the families that are in the next room. You fall in love with the families in the snack shack and in the parking lot, and we share wagons and Band-Aids, and, you know, we lose our family, so we become family, and people don't realize how badly that hurts. And as much as I want to be angry, I don't ever want them to know that how impossible it is. And, you know, a lot of times when people look at me, they think, wow, look how strong she is. And she's built all this stuff and she's done so much. And what they don't see is what we don't share, because who would want to see it? Like, they don't see that a lot of us angel parents don't sleep anymore. We have insomnia. A lot of us, it's very hard for us to go around other children, not because we don't love them, not because we don't want to see them. It's because ours isn't there anymore. And for me, my son will always be 3 years old. He'll always be Ayden at 3 years old. And I don't never want to forget that. And I don't never want to forget any part of him. I want him to be part of every day. So if that means I have to talk about him every day, or I have to cry about him every day, then I'm going to do it, because I never want him to be gone. But I also find myself at times, now that all of this has happened, a very small piece of me, and I don't know if it's going to come out right, but a very small piece of me is very happy Ayden isn't in this world, because it has become a scary place. And I no longer have to protect him from hate, from greed, from lies, from corruption. Ayden is in heaven with God. He has seen the most beautiful things, and he didn't need to be here as much as we did. And for him to be able to come here and inspire his mother and save his mother and change the lives that he changed in these 3 years, I don't know how I got so lucky that God picked me to be his mom. So I never get mad at God, because I will never be able to replace those 3 years. And in 3 years, I lived more than I've lived in 37 years, making oatmeal and doing baths and playing cars. Now at Walmart, I find myself looking at every little toy he wanted. And I miss going to the mall and buying him little shoes. And I always imagine what he would be like now, because he was only 3 and now he would be 6. So he would be his own person. He want to decorate his own room. He would have his opinion about his mom and what's for dinner. And I miss all that. I didn't even get that far. I didn't even get to potty train. So I just pray that one day God will give me the blessing to be able to have a brother or sister of Ayden's and be able to share with them how amazing their brother was, and how one little boy created so many resources for hundreds of families, and how he can make his very shy, insecure mom become this ferocious lion that can speak about anything as long as it has to do with my little boy. So I try now to remember the great parts and remember how happy Ayden was, and how much he hated to see me cry, and how much he wanted to live every single day, no matter what. Even after chemo, this guy would throw up in the back seat and then 5 minutes later be like, "So we're going to Kangaroo?" And I was crazy as him, like, "Yep, we're going to clean that up. We're going to Kangaroo." So it's just like, the cancer children, they're sent here so special, and they have hearts that we could not begin to describe. Unless there's no way you could even understand it until the moment you spend one day on a pediatric cancer floor. And then you will no longer care about material things. You will no longer even know what a problem is. The day you go on a pediatric cancer floor and you can watch a kid seconds from losing their life, and the last thing they want to do before they die is make sure their parents are okay. So they're passing and smiling at the same time, because these kids are that strong. So I know no matter what I go through now, I am unbreakable, because my son did it and I watched him do it. So there's nothing in this world that I cannot do. There is nobody in this world I now fear. And death is not something that is a sad thing for me anymore, because the day that my work is done here and God calls me home, I have the best date of my whole life waiting for me at those gates. And I just can't wait till that day comes, because I miss him so much. I miss him so much. And
for what I believe God has promised us, that as long as we fulfill our callings on earth and we do the things that we need to do, when I go home, I will be able to be Ayden's mom, and Ayden will be 3, and I will be me, and we will be able to raise him in heaven until he is grown. And I hold on to that memory, and I just say it was just goodbye for a little bit and not forever. So life since then has been a journey, but all the same, it's been a beautiful journey. And if I could give any advice to any mother who has lost a child, I would say, take care of you. No matter how it happens, take care of you first. Don't rush into, like I did, I rushed into wanting to help. I rushed into wanting to give back. And I can see how much my life could have been a little bit easier if I would have just let myself feel that pain and take that time away and gather my thoughts and my fears, and then started making some choices. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice I can give any parent who loses a child, is allow yourself that time. Because if you don't, you're going to run into issues of all kinds of crazy things. And in particular, there's a mom, and I don't know her. I've heard of her and her daughter's Lyric, and Lyric just passed away. So I saw this journey towards the end. A lot of people who supported Ayden tagged me to look at Lyric's mom, and I look at her and my heart hurts so bad for her, because I know how hard it is to lose a child. And I know how hard it is to lose a child and there be money involved and people no longer care about you, your loss, or even your child. So I hope and pray that Lyric's mom take some time for yourself before you make any choices. Be careful who you let around you. And remember to keep Lyric in your heart in everything you do, and you'll never fail. You'll never, ever fail. And that's what I've done with Ayden and Ayden's Army of Angels. We are now going into our 4th year, and we have given back over $1.5 million. We have kept families in their homes for the last 4 years. We have given away 6 cars, so permanent solutions to their transportation, not Band-Aids. We've fed thousands of families. And I pray that one day we are a St. Jude, but I want to be the Ayden's Army of Angels that supports only the survival of the families, and we'll leave the research and all those other things to those big boys over there. And I will make sure that the families are safe, the families have things that they need, they're staying in their homes, and that their time is spent fighting with their child and not fighting to survive and pay bills, and that they're creating memories and pictures. And, those are the things that now, without Ayden, that's all I have. And, he was only 3. So every picture in my house, I can tell you where we were. I can smell what we were eating. And, those things are priceless to me. So I will never remember, all the people that, approved our grants every month. I don't always remember those things, but what I do remember is the pictures that we took and the places that we went. And as much as I hate Make-A-Wish, I loved his Make-A-Wish trip and the time I spent with him. And those are the things that matter. And a lot of times to bigger nonprofits, it's all about a bottom line. It's all about running a business. And with Ayden's Army of Angels, there's no bottom line, and this is not a business. So we are able to create memories. I'm able to meet moms at gas stations and just put gas in their car because they need it right now. I'm able to go to the grocery store and fill their whole trunk up with groceries and, really anything outside of the box. And if it's not something I can do, I go to my board and I say, we need to change these bylaws because we have to do something else. So, that's the beauty of what Ayden has left behind for me. And I think that's how I've survived, is finding a way for Ayden's legacy to live on and talking to other parents. That is how a lot of the parents who are succeeding in grief and excelling through the loss, is they found a way to keep their child alive somehow. So that's what I've done with Ayden's Army of Angels. And it's been a beautiful journey. And now I'm in Georgia, where we are now opening our second office. And then I will be traveling to Illinois, Texas, and New York to be opening the remainder of our offices, and just keep building the dream. And the bigger Ayden's Army of Angels gets, the more I get to talk about Ayden, the more families get to learn about the true realities of childhood cancer and not just what we see on TV. And maybe by hearing the truth, we can bring some real resources and real things that can change the things that aren't right and fill those gaps in the medical system for our children. And, I love our gala for Ayden's Army of Angels. We do an angel gala where we honor parents who have lost children to childhood cancer, because there's so many times that once we lose our kids, we're no longer part of anything. And that's when you need that love and support the most. So it's crazy even how we chose our name, Ayden's Army of Angels, never imagining that my Ayden would become an angel. But, my son is in heaven and he's welcoming each angel into the gates of heaven. And I'm down here making sure their mamas stay strong and their parents have what they need to transition back into the workforce and life, and, and just have that support system. So that is a little story about Ayden Satoshi Brown, my beautiful little son, and his legacy of Ayden's Army of Angels. And I am Ayden's mom.
Well, Lindsey, thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that. Wow, I actually do have a lot of I have questions and I have some comments. A lot of similarities. When you were sharing your story, my daughter passed at 3. We were talking. We've been talking also, and I do the same thing. Like, I'll go to the store. Just the other day, I was at Walmart and I passed through an aisle and I saw something of trolls, and she loved trolls, and I would just go there and see that, and like you say, I passed through the toy aisle and I see toys that she liked. And I find myself asking the same thing. She would be 6 now. She would have her own personality. What would she be into? What would we talk about? Would she still like this? Would she still like that? I mean, how would we be right now? Her and I were a team also. We were inseparable. She was my best friend. She was my date for all these things. And so that brought up a lot of memories, good memories. And Lindsey, I just think that what you're doing is incredible. I started following, Ayden's Army of Angels, and that's when I reached out to you. But just the work that you're doing, I think that's incredible. I mean, all the people that you have helped out, and you did mention another thing. When people see that, when people see my channel, when people see these episodes, I get a lot of messages, which I'm grateful for, when people tell me you're so strong and what you're doing after you've gone through. But they don't know what happens when I click stop recording here. They don't know
Right.
what happens once I finish every episode. I mean, I end up going for a drive. If not, I end up at the cemetery crying for hours. I don't think I'm strong. And I just wish that I had a little bit, and I'm sure you wish the same, that you at least had a 5% of strength that Ayden had. I wish I
Right.
had just a tiny bit of strength that Mia had. But I guess that what you and I are doing is great, because it's showing that no matter the circumstance, how God still can work through us and be able to help all these other families, and be able to help out in our pain. And this is something that we're going to go through for the rest of our lives. But you answered the call. I'm answering the call, even though it took me a while to answer God's call. But we're answering that call, and we're wanting to make a difference, and we want to be a voice. And you're an inspiration to me of everything that you're doing, and just so thank you, because I'm inspired by you and your testimony and what you're doing. So with talking under, I know you did talk about Aiden's Army of Angels and what you all do. If you can tell our viewers how they can reach out to you. You did talk about the gala, and you did talk about other things, but can you give us websites, contact phone numbers, maybe contact emails, whatever you have, and how people can donate, to your the organization that you have, and how can people help? I mean, I think this is awesome. You're going to be set up in 4 different states with your amazing foundation. So there's people in the East Coast, there's people in here in Texas, or in my home state, that might want to reach out and help. So how can somebody reach out and help? Or if they want to volunteer, if they want to help financially, what type of services do you offer, and how can people help?
Well, if you want to help there, you can visit our website. It's www.aidensarmyofangels.org. And we have a tab on our website, ways to help. And there's lots of ways to get involved. So it's not always just donating money. You can come out and volunteer. You can cook dinner with us at the Ronald McDonald House. You can help us create bags for snack bags that we send out to different hospitals. And I love when volunteers come and get involved rather than making a donation, because then they truly get to see what it is we do and why we do it prior to making any donations to us. So volunteering is a great way to help. And then we also have, you can do a Cooper's Coolers drive. So Cooper's Coolers is a program we developed after Cooper Riccardi and his mom used to have Light of the World Foundation, but it's just like a starter kit at diagnosis that helps you navigate through treatment. We give you resources on different foundations that can financially help you. And then Aiden's Army of Angels gives you a check, because we know every diagnosis comes with missed work. So that we have that program. Another program that I'm really excited about is our sickle cell transportation program. So we have been giving away cars to cancer and sickle cell families. And for the ones that aren't able to receive cars yet, there's few requirements to get them. So when they're not able to receive them, we do give them Uber health rides back and forth to the hospital, and we provide bus passes. And then we also have our Aiden Bucks program. So with Aiden Bucks, this was a program developed because me and Aiden were in the hospital. And as a parent, I starved many nights in the hospital and I couldn't afford to eat. And I would see doctors and nurses go in line and they would get their free food and I would be starving and I would be mad. So I came up with Aiden Bucks, and what it is they can take a voucher and it has a little money and it has Aiden on the middle. And then they take it to the cafeteria and it gives them a $10 credit. So that way they can eat a healthy meal. They can make conscious decisions because they're not starving and they're not worried about food. So I was so excited when that program was adopted by Summerlin Hospital in Nevada. And we plan on bringing that program out to Georgia, and we have Breakfast with Santa. And I don't know, but I've heard that Aiden's Army of Angels throws the best Christmas party in the state of Nevada. I just heard, but we do, because we shop for every single person in the family, and I do not bear any expense. I grant wishes that kids think we would never get it, but we do. We've gotten PlayStations, Xboxes, DSs, and laptops, and we do it for the whole family, because there was a lot of times with Aiden fighting that we were living with other people, and the foundations would come and spoil Aiden rotten, but they didn't realize that Aiden had cousins, and those kids didn't understand that Aiden's getting spoiled because he's sick. They just know Aiden gets stuff and they don't. So that's why when we, developed our program, I wanted to make sure that nobody in the family is left out. So then there are no bad feelings and everybody really just enjoys the holiday. And it's something that is unforgettable. So we have a lot of great programs, and you can find ways to participate in each one of those programs on the website. You can make donations. We take car donations, stock donations, Venmo, Cash App, PayPal. So any way we could take a donation, we absolutely do. I know last year we got a donation of a purple mattress, and they're like, would you want this? Oh, I know a cancer kid that would love to sleep on a purple mattress. So we took that too. So, anything that we can do to help the families, I'm absolutely all about it. There's a lot of sponsorship levels on our website if you would like to look at those for our upcoming gala. It's a great way to share information about your company and get to know some other companies who have the same philanthropy goals as your company. So there's lots of ways to get involved and make sure that our families have the resources that they need. So their focus is their fight and not their finances.
I think that's all amazing. I think that's fantastic what you're doing there. Talk to me about this upcoming gala that you have here in June.
Well, the Angel Gala, we will be honoring 7 moms who have lost children to childhood cancer. And this is a unique year for us because we're also honoring 3 dads. So we're going to bring them all out. We get them hotel rooms. We spoil them rotten. We're working on getting some free gala gowns. We get their hair and makeup done in their hotel room. I take them to dinner, and then we are incorporating this year some healing activities like nature walks and different things like that. So then when these moms fly in from all over the United States, they now have a group of 10 moms now that went through that same loss. They understand. And if you're having a good day or a bad day, you now have somebody to reach out to that truly hears you. And as a parent, you know, it's one thing for someone to say, I'm so sorry for your loss. But it's another thing for another parent who lost a child to say, I'm so sorry for your loss. It's just heard a completely different way. And I know for me, I needed that support, and I didn't find it until I went to Las Vegas and they had an Angel Mom crew, a Warrior Mom crew. And I'm like, this is the coolest thing ever. And now I'm hoping to take that Las Vegas concept of togetherness and bring it to Georgia and start an Angel Mom and Warrior Mom crew here. And as we go around, we'll have all these phenomenal moms that support each other and help each other through this process, because it's an impossible journey on your own.
And I kind of overheard that there's going to be also another handsome speaker at your gala, a father maybe somewhere,
Yeah.
somebody. All right.
Are having this year keynote Miss Dad.
Well, thank you so much.
So the dads don't always have a voice, and they always feel like, oh, well, she does everything for mom. So when you were willing to come speak at the gala, I'm like, this is so perfect. But that's how God, you got to work hard. You just happens.
You know, God makes it happen. So family, I am actually very honored that Lindsey has asked me to be one of the speakers at this gala, and I'm just just overwhelmed. And I know it's it's God that's making this happen. And I love the fact, like you said, it's different when somebody tells you, I'm sorry for your loss. But when somebody else has gone through it, they don't even have to tell you I'm sorry. You could just speak about anything and you know exactly what the other parent's feeling, because you're in the same shoes, you're in their same shoes. And I've had a lot of people, and I don't mean any disrespect when people say, I know what you're going through. I lost my mom to cancer, I lost my dad to cancer. It's kind of like, I'm sorry, but it does not compare at all, having. And I don't like to use using the word loosely, losing your child, but they're not lost. Ayden and Mia are in heaven. We know exactly where they are, and they're waiting for us. And another thing that you touched upon, and that just reminded me right now, is this. It's I feel the exact same way. This world. I mean, there was a shooting in Boulder, Colorado, that killed 10 people. I mean, we know where this world is headed. We know that the enemy is running loose, and it's just headed to a place that when you and I, we're around the same age, when we were growing up, you didn't hear these things. It just seems to be getting worse and worse. So I'm happy that I'm, like you said, that I'm not having to protect her from all of this, from a virus,
Right.
or having to protect her from all of this. So I'm also happy, and that gives me a little bit of peace as well. So Lindsey, well, we're going to be putting all that information here on the description. And I think that Ayden's Army of Angels and the Gold Corner can team up and we can do amazing things together. I definitely think so. So we're here for you, and thank you so much for doing that. You did give you did give us advice for other moms and other parents that are going through the same thing. So I'm gonna ask you now one other question. What advice would you give to parents that have healthy children?
stop taking it for granted. There's so many times I'm like in the mall, like, I should have left you at home. Or, and when you lose a child, you become so sensitive to all those things. So I find myself in restaurants, and I saw this other day, this mom and a little boy eating breakfast. And I found myself just staring and staring, like, I miss the days I used to take him for pancakes. And then I have to catch myself because now I'm the crazy lady that's staring at her son. And she's like, what's wrong with this lady? But, I just, for parents that have healthy kids, love them and kiss them and never take those moments for granted, and teach them to love others and teach them to care about others, because they might have a friend in the hospital that, when it's not COVID, they could go in and do makeup with. And that little 1 hour of your kid being healthy, hanging out with that kid that's sick, you don't know how much joy that brings. So, when you got a healthy kid, you got a phenomenal opportunity to teach them to be great kids, to love others, to help others, to make a difference in this world as much as they can. And, seeing cancer kids, it also gives them a different respect for life and appreciation for life too. So cherish those moments and never take anything for granted.
You said it so perfectly, because prior to us being told that our children had cancer, we were not cancer parents. We became cancer parents the second that they told us. And you also did mention that if, and I hope our viewers that have not gone through this, I hope you never have to go or even step foot in an oncology floor. But if for some reason you are doing volunteer work, or you happen to walk by a lot of kids that are battling cancer, it's going to change your mind. If you ever step foot in a cancer floor, it's going to change your mind completely. You're going to see things that I tell people, you can see the face of God in these children that
Yeah,
are connected to their IV, that a lot of the times the following day we ask, where is, so and so, and they said they passed last night, and these kids the night before, they were playing and they were happy. So
right.
if you've never been there, consider yourself blessed, but if you have, you know exactly what both Lindsey and I are talking about. So, well, family, I just want to say thank you so much. Thank you for taking your time and listening to this story, and just this amazing organization that Lindsey has. Please look her up. Look at the description. I'm going to leave the links here on the description of this video. Lindsey, thank you so much once again for taking time out of your busy day to be able to be a part of the Gold Corner. We are here and we're going to work together, and we're going to be a voice for these children. So, Lindsey, thank you so much. Any last words before we finish this video?
No, I think that's all. Thanks so much for having me. It's been super exciting, and I'm glad I got to share a little piece of Ayden with each one of your viewers, and hopefully together we'll all bring some real change.
Most definitely. That is what I promised God and what I promised Mia that I was going to do. So,
And right,
family,
the way of our promise to God or our babies.
yeah, we cannot do that. No, they will never let us down with that. So, family, thank you so much for watching this week's episode of the Gold Corner. I hope this story blessed you in a way. And if God puts it in your heart to bless Lindsey, look her up. Look up her foundation and bless her, whether it's through volunteer work, whether it's financially, or even just visit the page and see what they're up to. Thank you so much once again for watching this week's episode. Remember that to live each day to its fullest, because tomorrow is not promised. And just hold on a little while longer, because we're almost home. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.